Recently, a video was shared via Snapchat, and what was in that footage traumatized the recipient and would later horrify investigators. When investigators discovered the crime scene, they found blood staining multiple rooms, including the walls, the stairwell, and even the ceiling. This is the case of 36-year-old Alan Lawson. Alan, who was described as a quiet man by his neighbours, was born on the 1st of December 1987 in Irvine in Scotland, but in February 2024 he became a victim of what a judge later described as nothing less than torture. Alan's mum Marie hadn't heard from Alan in several days, and she was starting to become concerned. Then, on the 4th of February, she received a call from her sister-in-law that only deepened those concerns. Marie decided to go and check on her son for herself, but when she arrived at his home at around 11 p.m, she found Alan laid on a mattress in the middle of the living room, wearing clothes that weren't his and making noises rather than speaking. He was severely injured, so she called emergency services immediately. Paramedics attempted to help him, but Alan repeatedly pulled away when they tried to treat him. At one point, paramedics warned that if he refused help again, they would have to leave. Alan reportedly muttered something that sounded like "fuck off," and then the paramedics left the property. Marie later said that in that moment, she just crumbled. Alan was taken to hospital hours later after eventually becoming unresponsive, and what Alan had endured over the 2 days prior was horrific. Investigators discovered that Alan hadn't been attacked in his own home. He had been left there to die. They discovered that the attack took place inside a property on Alexander Avenue in Largs, a property belonging to 29-year-old Jordan Honeyman. Between the 2nd and the 4th of February, Alan was repeatedly punched and kicked in the head and body. Prosecutors stated that Jordan had even jumped from a staircase directly onto Alan's head and body, and as a result, the injuries that Alan suffered were catastrophic. He had a deep laceration to his forehead, his right earlobe had been cut, and he suffered an extremely serious knee injury which severed the ligament beneath his kneecap and damaged the bone underneath. Doctors also noted distinctive bruising patterns across his body, which suggested that footwear had been worn during the attack. There were 2 fractures at the base of his skull, one measuring 7 centimeters and another 3.5 centimeters. Injuries that doctors said would have required a considerable amount of force. Alan also suffered bruising to his scalp, face and neck, a fractured nose, and dozens of other injuries. In total, he had at least 54 separate injuries. Prosecutors stated that Jordan had also scalded Alan's feet, removed his clothing, and applied superglue to some of the wounds before forcing him into a shower. And at no point did he seek any medical attention. Jordan was proud of what he had done, feeling the need to showcase it to others. After the attack, Jordan filmed Alan and sent the footage via Snapchat, alongside threatening voice notes and messages claiming that the recipient would be next. This recipient was Connor Paul. He later described the footage as a man curled in a fetal position, chained to a radiator and covered in blood. And while viewing this footage, Connor took a screenshot, which notified Jordan, who responded by calling him a dirty grass and threatened that he would be next. One of the messages read, "I just fucking lacerated a cunt and put 5 holes in him for less. I'm going to stab the life out of you. I'm going to murder you. You see the video I sent you last night? You're going to be the next dead body. The video you seen was for a fraction of what you've done. Just imagine the pain." 3 screenshots from this video would later be shown in court. One showed clear gloves, another showed a topless selfie of Jordan stood in the kitchen with his face and chest covered in Alan's blood, and the third showed Alan lying on the floor wearing only socks, visibly injured and surrounded by blood. Then, on the evening of the 4th of February, after the brutal attack, Alan was taken back to his own home in Saltcoats, which was around 14 miles away. As investigators pieced together what had happened after the attack, they uncovered an attempt to clean and conceal the scene. Jordan contacted friends, asking them to bring towels and superglue to the property. Brian Carey, a co-accused in the case, charged with attempting to defeat the ends of justice, later claimed that he had no idea what had happened when he was asked for a lift and to bring towels to the house. But when he arrived, he reportedly saw blood on the floors, walls, doors and banister, with Jordan asking him to help clean it up. Jordan wanted him to help remove blood-stained clothing, furnishings and sections of carpet from the home. Around 10 bags worth of items were later driven to Saltcoats seafront in the early hours of the 5th of February and thrown into the sea. Then, once he was done trying to conceal the evidence, Jordan disappeared. It's unclear what exactly the motive was, but Jordan told one of his friends that the two got into a scuffle and Alan came off second best. Neighbours later recalled hearing shouting coming from the property, including someone yelling about getting into the shower. Then on the 4th of February, they noticed a white van parked outside the house. Witnesses described seeing 3 men, one of which was Jordan, carrying towards the van what they later realised was a body. They said that the person wasn't moving, only moaning and mumbling. 2 days later, on the 6th of February 2024, Alan Lawson died in Kilmarnock Hospital. His cause of death was determined to be a fatal stroke, caused by blood clotting linked to the injuries to his neck and head. Then, on the 9th of February, forensic specialists examined Jordan's property on Alexander Avenue. A forensic biologist later described the living room as being heavily and extensively blood-stained, with blood spots even found on the ceiling. Blood was also discovered throughout the hallway, the stairwell, the bathroom, and the main bedroom. Further details about Jordan's past also emerged during the proceedings. It was revealed that he already had a history of violence and had previously been jailed for almost 3 years over an assault in 2022. The victim in that case was also Alan Lawson, who had been beaten with a baseball bat. On the 20th of February, Jordan Honeyman was eventually arrested at a friend's house. Alan's family were left numb and in complete shock at the situation. They vowed to get justice for Alan. During the trial, Jordan accepted responsibility for causing Alan's death, but he denied murder. But the judge rejected the defence. Describing the killing as a barbaric murder, the judge stated that the injuries inflicted on Alan were specifically designed to cause pain and were nothing less than acts of torture. The court also stated that Jordan appeared to revel in what he had done. After 4 hours of deliberating, the jury found Jordan guilty of the murder of Alan Lawson. After he was led away from the court after being convicted, Jordan could reportedly be heard shouting, "This is bullshit." Jordan Honeyman was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 25 years.